of law enforcement assets at checkpoint number 2. What's the process?
Well, the first person to see that is someone out front, determining whether it requires more investigation. And so they'll shoot them over to the second point. And that person will have to say, are you here on business, or is it personal, or you're on holiday, or something of that nature? That's what happens at these checkpoints, because I've been through them. And they'll ask you your business in Canada, and that's the way it will go. Let's not forget, it's possibly attack on federal agents. So the FBI will be on point on this the entire time. So that's the way these things work. It happens every day, 7 days a week. It's something that within the first person sees, you go over and get further investigation or explain why you're coming into Canada. And that's as simple as that. It happens all the time. So that first person will have to describe what he saw, that first border agent. It's important exactly what drew him to direct that secondary car. We don't know what's in the minds of the driver, why he accelerated and hit the thing, but that being in itself is an attack on the Border Patrol. So this is being investigated as a criminal incident anyway, but I don't know if it's a terrorist incident. So we'll go forward with that. It's important to understand that. Now you go back and see if you can get a picture of those individuals on private sector video getting into the car or someplace else. From what I understand, there's casinos in the area with a lot of private sector video that they can glean as well. They'll be able to clamp down on this very quickly and get an image of those or that individual who's driving the car.
Right, I guess we should point out this is the way that you would head to the casino. That's the point well made. But what was in that car? What caused it to explode? Was it something in the car? Was it when the car sped up and ran into something? We just don't know yet. And Aaron, another question: do we know how many people were in that car? And is it believed that the fatalities are just tied to the individuals that were in that car?
We know there are fatalities associated with the vehicular explosion at the Rainbow Bridge, Kira, but we have not been told whether it's people inside the vehicle or people who were just nearby when the vehicle blew up. The authorities have not given us any indication other than to say there are fatalities and potential injuries associated with this.
So, Bob, from your experience, because Aaron points out, and we have to proceed with caution here, that this is not necessarily an attempt to commit a terror attack, that it could be drug runners or some other type of criminal activity. But in your experience, taking down drug runners, being called to other types of criminal activity in this type of situation, is it unusual that a car would just explode like this?
So Kira, to answer your question, in my experience, no, it's not usual. It's unusual, as you said. It is one of those things that you have to ask what goes into the mind of the driver and what's going on here. It could be drugs. It could be a couple things. It could be a suicide bomber. We don't know exactly what's going on. But the fact that a vehicle like that crashes and blows up and incinerates like that is very revealing. And who's in the car is key here. And we'll know a lot more once they're ID'd. I will tell you that this happens really quickly. These investigations are forwarded very quickly as far as when you have a plate, you have a VIN number, and you're really off to the races getting that data and giving investigators more than they really need at the time, but we have to go through it. So again, it's in this environment that we're in right now, 2 wars going on internationally, all kinds of, it's a holiday weekend. You have to go in a certain direction. Whether you pull off that direction someplace down the line, that's fine. But you go in that direction. It's criminal or it's terrorism. And that's what I suggest they're doing right now.
So there's a number of things when you say this happens really quickly. If you look at the fact that forensic experts could possibly already be there on the scene, they probably are. You've got bomb techs. So pretty quickly they will be able to, from forensics to residue to debris, how quickly, you say this, they'll know pretty quickly. Kind of give us the order of events, Bob, as to what they will test first, try and ID first. Clearly there's going to be remains there at the scene if indeed there are multiple fatalities. Just kind of give us an idea of are they working all this at the same time? Will they go from one to the next? My guess is they'll be solely focused on this briefcase first, and then the order of events follows that.
So the briefcase is the first order of business, and that's so no one else gets hurt, and that's going to slow things down a little bit. And that may be removed in a vehicle and taken to a location and opened up there. I will tell you, when we had helped the FBI on an incident in New York on 23rd Street in September of 2016, where we were finding ball bearings and timing mechanisms from the device on the street. Clearly, we knew what it was at that point. This was a purposeful act. We didn't know who did it at that point. We found out soon thereafter. But that type of speed sometimes will accelerate quickly once you identify what was there, what were the projectiles coming out of that, if there were any. Remember, this is a vehicle borne, so it's a little bit different. That was kind of like a different explosive device that I dealt with. But you could tell from the remnants immediately, oh, something's up here, and we're going in this direction immediately. And that's what happens. But the video, they'll go back and they'll be aided by the police department, the local police department, the troopers in garnering that information quickly to give to the investigators to go in that direction. The key point is in identifying who these people are. And if there's any chatter to hear on websites about this incident that rubs you the wrong way. The whole country's in a different state right now because of this incident. That's what the issue is. Until we know more, we're going to, it's a heightened alert across the nation.
Got it. And we also were getting there was a Q&A that happened at Canadian Parliament, and it looks like Prime Minister Trudeau did give some comments here. This is sort of long, so I tell you what, maybe someone can take a look and see exactly what the Prime Minister said. Well, I can go over to Mick Mulroy. Okay, great. We're working actually on getting the sound of the Canadian Prime Minister responding to questions about this explosion. I do see that he says we are taking this extraordinary seriously, and they have closed all 4 bridges there in the area. But I'll wait for that sound and bring in you, Mick Mulroy. You and I were texting here. We don't want to think the worst, but as we put everything together and terrorism is on our minds, and the warnings were put out there as we enter into a big holiday season here in America, and there's been a lot of tension, a lot of protest, a lot of fear of possible terror attacks in light of what's happening overseas. Through your sources, and as you've been following this story, why don't we just begin with your thoughts here, concerns? I know you can talk about security nationwide as well. Please, Mick, whatever you can add to what's happening here.
So, Kara, certainly we don't know what this is yet, and I think that is obviously prudent to find out officially what the FBI, what the Department of Homeland Security thinks this is. But it is clear from the director of the FBI's recent testimony that there is a heightened state of concern based on what's happening in the Middle East, particularly in Gaza, that we could be at a higher risk of attack for multiple different terrorist organizations. So I think that is something we are going to be looking at. If that is the case, this could be the beginning of multiple ones. But let's find out what it is first. But I think that is something the FBI is going to be looking at specifically on just how this was conducted and who might have done this.
So, Aaron, we can confirm that the White House is monitoring this. Attorney General Merrick Garland is monitoring this. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul is on her way to the scene. What more can you tell us just about all parties that are monitoring and also responding to the scene?
I think it reflects the times that we're living in, Kira, because in recent days, and just today, in fact, a number of agencies have released security bulletins to say that there is a heightened threat environment the United States is in. And one bulletin specifically mentioned transportation infrastructure because of what's happening overseas between Israel and Hamas. There's been a focus in New York City because the annual Thanksgiving Day parade steps off tomorrow under high security. That could make an attractive target, but so could transportation infrastructure. We should be clear, though, Kira, we're just not sure that's what this is. It appears the vehicle was coming into the United States from Canada and went through some kind of checkpoint and then was told to go through a secondary screening and then crashed at that secondary screening location after speeding up. That's what the authorities have seen on surveillance images, according to sources briefed on this investigation. So one question is, what aroused initial suspicion? And then, was it someone who then panicked and figured they were going to get caught and then crashed and it was a big vehicle fire, in other words, that caused the explosion? Or was it something more nefarious? And that's what the FBI is trying to dig in now. Kira, the authorities are being very cautious about putting a label on what this was.
Absolutely, and we'll remain cautious as well. Aaron, thank you very much. And I am told now that we have that moment that Prime Minister Trudeau was asked about this explosion there at the Rainbow Bridge. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the question and the answer.
We are in close contact with U.S. officials and will continue to work closely with them. We will continue to be engaged. We will provide updates. Updates I can give right now is there are 4 border crossings that are right now closed: Rainbow Bridge, Whirlpool Bridge, Queenston Bridge, and Peace Bridge. Additional measures are being contemplated and activated at all border crossings across the country. We are taking this extraordinarily seriously. And, Mr. Speaker, I will have to excuse myself now to go get further updates and work on this very serious situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Aaron, clearly all hands on deck here.
Well, yeah, and I think the Canadians are going to be interested in finding out, who was in the car. Were they Canadian citizens? Were they, were they up to no good, or were they up to even criminal activity? And what's that about? And how were they stopped? What were the circumstances? But you heard the Prime Minister say out of an abundance of caution, all the bridges linking the U.S. and Canada over the Niagara River are now temporarily shut down. They'll reopen. These are major thoroughfares. They're not going to stay closed forever. But while the authorities figure out what caused this vehicle to explode and why, they're going to be quite cautious here, Kira.
So, Bob, something triggered suspicion when the car approached the first checkpoint. So what could that have been? Could it have just been simply a conversation? Do they search the cars in any way? What's the protocol at the first checkpoint?
Those first checkpoints, they're trained to see something out of normal or something that needs further investigation as it conduct an interview. They won't do it there. They'll push them over to the center, the bridge, excuse me, to do that. So they're going to try, and that's normal SOP. That's what they're going to do. So something they saw, and it could be routine, that they did, that they, let's go talk to these people, go over there. That again could have put into the mind of the driver, all of a sudden I'm going to get stopped, so let me change my behavior in a bad way. So that's what I'm saying right now. We need to talk to that first person who saw something and saw something unusual, or needed something other than that to push them over for further investigation. That person is going to be key to tell us, what did he see? What was key about that? That with no children in the car, it didn't look like a holiday situation. So let's go talk to them. Maybe they were on business. Maybe we need to know more. The fact that it was a Mercedes is also could be revealing as well. Was it a rented car? We don't know. So that has to go forward too. Exactly what was that initial stop for? And that's what we'll find out when we talk to the Border Patrol agents on the scene. What was their gut? Why did they do that? It's important to understand that. But also the fact that he or she accelerated into that bridge crossing. That's key right there. That's not something unusual, and that has to be determined as either criminal or terrorist act, and that's the way we should go right now. But again, we're a long way from a terrorist act here. But nonetheless, you have to go through these steps.
Of course, and the surveillance video will be key, Aaron. No doubt they are sifting through that right now. You've had confirmation. They have been able to see certain things via the surveillance video. Do we know how much there was, where exactly the cameras were, what they have been able to noticed so far? Bring us kind of up to date on how that surveillance video will be helpful in this.
Have to imagine that the bridge is covered in surveillance cameras for traffic, if for nothing else, in addition to security, Kira. And the vehicle is seen after it crosses from Canada at a checkpoint. You have to go through customs to get into the United States, and something caused the vehicle to be singled out for a necessary secondary screening. Now, whether there was something specific, I know people who cross that bridge frequently have been emailing and texting saying, you know, every fifth car, sometimes they pull out for secondary screening, like they might, you know, at an airport, just for an abundance of caution. So we don't know whether there was something specific about the vehicle or what. Maybe a license plate read triggered some suspicion, but the vehicle, according to sources who've seen or been briefed on this surveillance imagery, is then directed to a secondary security checkpoint, speeds up, and then crashes into a beam or a bollard by the secondary security location and explodes from there. Now, one of the things we're trying to determine is whether it was the impact of the crash that then set the vehicle on fire, causing the explosion, or whether there was any kind of a device. Seems to be the former, but the authorities just aren't saying yet, Kira.
Well, it's an incident that occurred shortly after noon there at the Rainbow Bridge, connecting the U.S. Canadian countries there at the border. FBI investigating a vehicle explosion where they believe 2 people have been killed. Also, a briefcase of some sort left at the scene. Bomb techs assessing that. It's full court press when it comes to the agencies that are responding to this. We're on it, trying to figure out exactly what happened there. Just a day before Thanksgiving. We'll be right back. More on this breaking story right after a quick break.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
Give it to me. Hit me with them good vibes, pictures on my phone live. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine. Some more, just a little bit. Breathe more, just a little bit. Smile a little more in a minute. I've been running through the strange lives, pictures on my phone live. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine.
From America's #1 news source comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and it can customize to you and your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience what all the buzz is about. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now. ABC News Live Prime, winner of the Gracie Award for Best News Program in all of television. Stream ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis, weeknights on ABC News Live.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We've seen tank after tank pouring into this area.
This is where it all began.
Bullet holes all up the wall.
Within minutes, the air raid sirens going off.
You can hear the sound of an explosion.
We are pinned down here.
Tonight, Israel waging a fierce bombardment of Gaza.
The Israel-Hamas war. For non-stop live coverage, stream ABC News Live.
Reporting from southern Israel. From the front lines.
In downtown Ramallah.
In Beirut. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there.
ABC News Live.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
Everybody in that home is okay.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. We are here at fashion's biggest night out.
What's happening today? YouTube has unveiled a new set of policies.
What people are talking about. The new ad campaign.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
A real-life Barbie dream house.
A name change for the Wienermobile.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go.
as well. The bomb techs sifting through the debris there, in addition to forensic experts taking a look at the bodies that were killed in this explosion, believed to be the individuals inside that car. Aaron, bring us up to date as we wait to hear from authorities if indeed this was an attempted terror attack.
And to be clear, Kira, they just do not know yet. They are still trying to assess what this was and what caused the vehicle to explode just after noontime, after it crossed the Rainbow Bridge from Canada into the United States over the Niagara River. The vehicle is seen on surveillance cameras on the bridge being stopped at U.S. Customs at a checkpoint and being directed to a secondary screening location that could have been a random thing, or there could have been something about the vehicle that aroused suspicion, either from a visual inspection or from a license plate read. And as the vehicle was directed to that secondary screening location, we're told it sped up and then crashed, and then at that point exploded. Whether it was the impact of the crash that caused the explosion or whether there was any kind of a device or something, based on the images we've seen from the debris field and the aftermath, it doesn't appear like it was a powerful bomb or anything, but the authorities just haven't said. They are also not saying anything about the fatalities. We do know there are fatalities associated with the explosion, Kira. We don't know whether they were inside the car, outside the vehicle, or what, and the authorities are now just trying to piece it all together.
So you have a note here, Aaron, talking about thanks as being given to a frequent Rainbow Bridge crosser. Can you tell me what exactly this individual saw or reported, or can you add some context to that?
You know, people who cross the bridge are just giving a little bit more of the context. It's been a long time since I've crossed the bridge myself, so I wasn't sure. But in order to get into the United States, you do go through a customs checkpoint, but that's on the U.S. side. So the vehicle did cross the span, it appears, and then and then encountered customs and border protection initially, before it was sent to some kind of secondary screening on the U.S. side of the bridge. Initially, it wasn't clear to me whether the vehicle that exploded had actually crossed. Or where it had come from, where it was headed, but it does seem like it was coming from Canada and into the United States.
And again, a vehicle exploding there at the second checkpoint did not make it onto that bridge. Aaron, Bob, thank you. We are going to take a quick break. We're going to continue following this breaking news story as we are learning more details by the minute. Stay with us. More news on the other side.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine, close to the front line.
from the capital.
Destructive Cat 4 storm.
Along I-5. Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Tonight, celebrating former First Lady Rosalind Carter, the country and the world say goodbye. Plus, the truce to start freeing the hostages. More Americans turn to the most watched program on television. World News Tonight with David Muir.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. 4 students stabbed to death in their beds while 2 roommates were home.
You gotta think to yourself, okay, who's the target and how many people would a man go through to get to his target?
I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. This is the King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
From America's #1 news source comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and it can customize to you and your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience what all the buzz is about. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
Reporting from Boston, I'm Whit Johnson. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. Glad you're streaming with us. We begin this hour with a breaking news story that's been happening just short after noon Eastern time. Law enforcement sources confirming to ABC that there has been an explosion involving a vehicle on the Rainbow Bridge in New York. Multiple officials telling ABC News they believe that there are fatalities connected to that incident as well. That bridge connects the U.S. and Canada at Niagara Falls, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke earlier about the incident in Parliament.
We are in close contact with U.S. officials and will continue to work closely with them. We will continue to be engaged. We will provide updates. Updates I can give right now is there are 4 border crossings that are right now closed: Rainbow Bridge, Whirlpool Bridge, Queenston Bridge, and Peace Bridge. Additional measures are being contemplated and activated at all border crossings across the country. We are taking this extraordinarily seriously. And, Mr. Speaker, I will have to excuse myself now to go get further updates and work on this very serious situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And while the Prime Minister is getting briefed, the White House also tracking this story. In addition to the Attorney General here in our nation's capital, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul headed to the scene as well. And of course, the FBI Terrorism Task Force on the scene, along with other agencies. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, has been working this story as soon as it hit. Also, our contributor, former NYPD Chief of Detectives Bob Boyce, and our national security and defense analyst, Mick Mulroy. A lot to cover here, gentlemen. Aaron, let's start with you, and let's just sort of back up and recap for those that are joining us here at the top of the hour, this explosion of this car that was headed from Canada to the U.S., got through the first checkpoint, something suspicious, alerted Border Patrol. It went to the second checkpoint. That's where it sped up and either hit something or just exploded. Let's just take it from there, what we know and what exactly bomb techs are doing now.
Well, the bomb techs are going through the wreckage, and they're trying to look for the license plate of the car and try and figure out, you know, who specifically this car belonged to, what the circumstances might be. They have been treating this as a potential act of terrorism, but they're not convinced it actually was. Where the car came from, where it was headed, multiple sources, frankly, Kira, have told us different things. So we're still trying to sort that out. But there was a point where it encountered some kind of a security check, was directed to a secondary security location, and sped up. This is what's seen on surveillance images, according to law enforcement officials. Sped up as it headed toward that secondary screening location and crashed into a beam, a bollard, something, and then exploded. And it seems as if the impact of the crash may have caused the explosion, not necessarily any kind of a device, but that's what authorities are now checking to see if there was any kind of a device or anything in the vehicle that could have caused an explosion, and then what the intent might have been. Was this criminal activity and someone trying to escape? Was this something more nefarious than that? The authorities haven't said, but they have, out of an abundance of caution, closed all the bridges over the Niagara River linking Canada and the United States while they continue this investigation. The governor, the FBI, and a number of other law enforcement agencies are all now involved.
Also, NYPD and other law enforcement agencies responsible for New York City bridges and tunnels, making sure that they're, as you have here in the note, Aaron, I'm trying to keep up with everything you're sending out among all your sources here. Robust law enforcement presence out of an abundance of caution there around all New York bridges and tunnels. Also, additional visibility on the bridges from the air, according to the police. And then we're thinking about the parade, the big Thanksgiving parade tomorrow, Macy's Day Parade there in New York. I'm just wondering, Aaron, in any circumstance, and I'm even trying to think back in history if that parade has ever been canceled, but could that even possibly be of discussion, considering what we learn here? Could it impact the big gathering there in New York City tomorrow?
I don't think they're thinking that at all, Kira. In fact, the circumstances in the country have been heightened before for various reasons, and the NYPD has already taken it into account. And to be clear, we just don't know what, in fact, this was. So at no point, I imagine, are they thinking of canceling the parade. It's 97 years. It's only been called off once in that 97 years, and that was for World War II. So the likelihood of it being canceled, I'd say, is extraordinarily slim. But they are mindful of the times. And just today, we had a look at a security bulletin from various intelligence agencies that talked about the threat environment, particularly for transportation infrastructure, based on the Israel-Hamas war. And because tensions have been heightened, hate crimes have been up, it's a heightened threat environment, as authorities have called it, and transportation infrastructure in particular, this bulletin said, could make an attractive target. But again, Kira, the likelihood that this was a potential act of terrorism has not been confirmed, and in fact, the authorities continue to look at a range of possibilities here.
All right, and our Department of Justice producer Luke Barr on the line with us now. So, Luke, what do we know from the Department of Homeland Security, not just here in the United States, but also the Public Safety of Canada? Are they talking? Are they concerned? What can you tell us?
Yeah, hey, Kira. So the Minister of Public Safety of Canada will be speaking to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas in the coming hours, a spokesperson told us. And what that conversation is going to consist of is sort of ways they can work together and ways that the authorities in the U.S. and Canada can sort of, collaborate and sort of figure out how to go forward on this. The FBI is the lead agency on this investigation, and of course the Attorney General has been briefed and is monitoring it. But that cross-border communication goes on all the time, and it goes on frequently. They share a border with Canada, and the CBP and the Canadian counterparts are always working together to thwart all kinds of things, and this is a conversation that has been going on for quite some time, Kira.
But the FBI clearly the lead here, Bob, right?
Yes, the FBI is the lead investigative agency. They tell us, and it's in these types of situations, the FBI is going to surge forensic experts from not just the FBI, but agents from ATF as well are going to be on scene, and they're going to be trying to figure out what exactly happened, Kira.
Okay, and so, John Cohen, are you with us?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm working a list of all the guests that I have now. They keep getting, if I could get a list of everybody that we have, guys, so I know where to go with our panel. It keeps growing, which is wonderful. John, you worked with the Department of Homeland Security. So as Luke just reported, Department of Homeland Security now, as clearly they talk with the Public Safety of Canada on a regular basis, but we've got an explosion here at the border. So my guess is we've got a bit of an uptick in conversation now. So tell me, from the perspective of Homeland Security, what his role will be and how he'll be monitoring this and what kind of calls, resources, plans he's making as the FBI takes the lead here. And if indeed we find out this was an attempted terror attack, clearly this investigation goes bigger and broader, and all of us are going to be on a different kind of alert. But Homeland Security, tell us the role and what Mayorkas will be doing now, because we're all concerned about the holiday weekend and the tensions from the war overseas and how it is impacting us here in the U.S.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there. First, as it relates to your question, this incident occurred at the border crossing between Canada and the United States. The Customs and Border Patrol has primary jurisdiction at those ports of entry, at those points where the borders meet between the two countries. Now, if this were to turn into a terrorism investigation or a terrorism incident, the FBI would have the lead, but they would work closely with CBP, Canadian officials, as well as state and local law enforcement to conduct that investigation. I just want to, we're very preliminary here. A lot of the information we're getting may turn out to be accurate in the future, may not. So what law enforcement is going to be doing right now, and this includes DHS law enforcement, would be seeking to identify the individuals in the car. They would do forensic testing to see if there is any chemicals to suggest that the explosion was due to an explosive device, or was it the car exploding as a result of the high-speed impact that we've been discussing earlier. They would be looking at whether these individuals, once they're identified, had been communicating with others. In particular, they'd be looking at whether they were communicating with known or suspected terrorists. They would look at their social media footprint to see if there was anything in social media that could provide insights. They'll interview people associated with these individuals to see if they possibly had associations with terrorism or terrorism causes. They're going to be reviewing video and other information because they'll want to try to determine, was this a terrorist incident, or was it an accident, or was it some other type of criminal activity? Those are things that they're going to be doing in the short term. I'd also just say that, law enforcement is already at a heightened state of vigilance. The threat environment we're in right now is dynamic because of the conflict abroad. It was already dynamic because of the threat conditions that we're experiencing. So they're going to look very, very closely at this, and they're going to assess whether additional security measures elsewhere are warranted.
All right. John, Luke, Mick, Bob, and Aaron, thank you so much. Stay close. We're going to continue our breaking news coverage here. If you're just tuning in, a vehicle explosion there at the U.S.-Canadian border. A car coming from Canada into the U.S. caused suspicion at a first checkpoint. As it was moving to the second checkpoint, it sped up and it exploded. We don't know if it crashed into something, if there were indeed explosives inside of that vehicle. The FBI is leading this investigation. Multiple agencies on the scene, bomb techs checking debris as we speak. Also forensic experts on the scene there looking for DNA. And as you just heard from John Cohen, all types of assets being utilized to find out who these people were, what their intentions were. Is there anything on social media? Did they leave any trail behind? In addition to a briefcase, suitcase type of bag that's being looked at right now. The bomb squad assessing that. We have a lot more news to bring you. We're going to take a quick break as we follow this developing story breaking right here at the border.
Rufus hates being stuck inside. Luckily, Amy saved big at Amazon. Turns out with the right gear, Rufus rips. Shop Black Friday deals now.
Take a moment to pause and ask, why did you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia?
I help others, but I need to help protect myself.
Honestly, I couldn't afford to get sick.
I want to be there for this one. I can't if I'm sick.
Pneumococcal pneumonia is a potentially serious bacterial lung disease. You may be at risk if you're 19 to 64 with certain chronic conditions, or if you're 65 or older. Don't pause a moment longer. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia today.
Ashley's Black Friday savings are here. Beat the rush on furniture and mattress doorbusters starting at just $199.99. Quantities are limited, so hurry in while supplies last. Or pay 0% interest for 60 months in-store only. The best Black Friday deals are happening now, only at Ashley.
Marshall's buyers travel far and wide to hustle the best deals on amazing holiday gifts. So you don't have to. We get the deals. You gift the good stuff.
Give you what you want. With Daisy sour cream, every bite gets better. Every dollop, every squeeze, every moment together. Pop it off, pick it up. You can never get enough when you do a dollar for Daisy. Good food tastes better with a dollar for Daisy. Do a dollar, do a dollar, yeah. Everything tastes better with a dollar for Daisy.
About time. We showed up. Let's show out.
3, 2, 1.
Game time. Come on.
Get low, then pick up. Get your hands in the air. It's a stick up. Shake your tambourines, move it quicker. Yeah, I'm shaking down the town. Get the picture.
I got you, baby.
Moving on the floor, gotta love that. How she keep it going on, gotta love that. To the beat like a pro, know you love that. She can shake it to the flow, gotta love that.
Are you comfortable? Absurdly comfortable. At Bombas, we're obsessed with comfort, quality, movement. Socks, tees, underwear. Because your basic things should be your best things. As always, one purchased equals one donated. Visit bombas.com and shop our big holiday sale.
Hey, CoverGirls. Plant Power? It's a game changer. Introducing the ultimate plant-powered mascara called Cleantopia. 300% extreme lush volume with 100% plant cellulose fibers. Let's go to Cleantopia. New Lash Blast Cleantopia from CoverGirl.
Living with them good vibes, bitches on my phone live. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine. Some more, just a little bit. Breathe more, just a little bit. Smile a little more in a minute. I've been running through this strange life, bitches on my phone live. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine.
Good morning, America.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We're glad you're streaming with us. As we begin, once again, with breaking news this hour, we are continuing to follow all details with regard to that explosion at the Rainbow Bridge. It's at the U.S.-Canada border. We can tell you just past noon, we started getting word of a car explosion. We did learn from authorities that the car was coming from Canada into New York, and there at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara, there were two checkpoints. That car pulling into the first checkpoint, something triggered some type of suspicion among the border agents. They asked the car to move up to the second checkpoint. It was at that point that the car started full speed ahead, either crashing into something or exploding there at the second checkpoint. We can tell you that authorities have confirmed the fatalities of the individuals inside that car. Whether it is related to terrorism, we still don't know, but we can tell you that this is something that we have been very concerned about as a country. The FBI putting out security bulletins. We have been on high alert nationwide as we were coming into the Thanksgiving holiday, where we have big gatherings, in particular the famous Macy's Thanksgiving Parade that's set to take place tomorrow. We knew that security had been increased just to keep all eyes on that large gathering, because we've had so many protests and a lot of tension since this war has broken out in the Middle East. And so there have been concerns of attacks or terrorism attacks, and yet we have not been able to confirm that indeed this was related to terrorism. There is a lot of concern, and law enforcement has been on alert, concerned about a situation like this. And we can tell you the White House is monitoring this now. We also heard from Canada's Prime Minister, Trudeau, was speaking at Parliament, telling the Speaker of the extraordinary, how they're taking this extraordinarily seriously. And matter of fact, the Prime Minister said he needed to leave because he needed to respond immediately to his cabinet personnel on what was happening here at the border. We know that New York Governor Kathy Hochul has headed to the scene as well, and there's multiple agencies as the FBI Counterterrorism Task Force takes the lead on this investigation. We have a whole panel of folks that have been breaking news and getting all the details and giving us just insight and perspective on what we're monitoring here, as we still haven't been able to confirm that this explosion was tied to terrorism. We are just trying to piece together all the details. Once again, we've got our Aaron Katersky, our senior investigative correspondent, that's been working this from the very beginning. New York PD Chief of Detectives, formerly and now a contributor with us, Bob Boyce. Also, Mick Mulroy, our national security and defense analyst, our justice producer, Luke Barr, joining us via phone. And then also you can see we have John Cohen. John, glad you're with us, former acting Secretary of Intelligence at the Department of Homeland Security. So we've got our bases covered, that's for sure. Aaron, let's start with you. We've been learning so much since this took place 3 hours ago, a little more than 3 hours ago. But why don't we start with this suitcase, briefcase that was found there at the scene? Do we know anything more about that? Are bomb techs still assessing that since this car exploded?
We believe whatever this was, briefcase, suitcase, did not pose an immediate threat. Our sources are now telling us so far there appears to be no evidence that there were explosives found at the scene. They're still checking, and they are not, giving a firm yes or no, but our sources are leading us away from the idea that there were explosives found at the scene where the vehicle exploded. It was just after noon when that vehicle was trying to or had crossed the Rainbow Bridge, encountered a checkpoint, and then was directed for secondary screening for some reason, sped toward the secondary screening location, and then crashed after getting to a pretty good rate of speed, we're told. The impact of the crash appears to have been what caused the vehicle to blow up, but authorities are still assessing the area, trying to figure out exactly what had happened. Kira, within the last several minutes, too, our sources are also leading us away from the idea that this may have been an attempted terror attack. And again, they're not labeling it one thing and not another, but there are a range of possibilities that the authorities are still investigating as to what this may have been, and whether this car may have been involved in some kind of criminal activity, something like that is still being run down.
So they're moving more away from potential terror attack. Is that what I'm understanding, Aaron?
At the moment, that's what our sources are saying. They're still not being definitive. And of course, everyone is mindful of the environment, this heightened threat environment the United States is in, given what's happened October 7th and the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas and the tensions that is causing, and the surge in potential threats around the holiday time. A bulletin today warned that the follow-on threats from the Hamas-Israel war could be particularly poignant for transportation infrastructure. There was no specific threat named, but quite a coincidence that bulletin appeared today for us. So the authorities are certainly mindful. And here in New York City, where the annual Thanksgiving Day parade's going to step off tomorrow, the NYPD says they're going to put extra assets at bridges and tunnels, monitor them from the air, put extra manpower there just to make sure those crossings are safe and that people feel safe, even though, again, there is no evidence that, at least so far, that this was any kind of an act of terrorism right now, Kira.
All right, but clearly everyone at the highest level, all the way to the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Canada, have been briefed. They are monitoring it. They are on the phones and staying in close touch with all their cabinet members. Also, New York Governor Kathy Hochul en route, possibly already there at the scene. And you mentioned, Aaron, the transportation warnings, the security bulletins that went out. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, now coming out with a statement saying, I've been briefed by our staff in New York State and headquarters on the explosion and related bridge closures there on the U.S.-Canada border. I am in touch with my Canadian counterpart. Travelers in the area should follow instructions and updates from law enforcement and state officials on travel impacts. Aaron, do we have any idea the impact on travel now that they've closed all 4 bridges there in the area, pretty much cutting off those routes between the U.S. and Canada? This is going to impact holiday travel. Do we know how long that could last? And could those closures be lifted once we have confirmation on exactly why this vehicle exploded, who was driving the car, who was in the car, what was in the car? Everything we all want to know right now. Yeah,
Kira, you'd expect that as soon as the authorities are confident they have a good handle on what this was, and maybe more importantly what it was not, that those travel restrictions would be lifted. But they were in place, we're told, out of an abundance of caution at all 4 bridges linking Canada and the United States over the Niagara River. We don't know whether there were any additional threats to those bridges that necessitated the closures, or whether it was just because of what happened on the Rainbow Bridge. We're also told within the last moment, according to the FAA, that it has paused all arrivals and departures at Buffalo's airport. And again, whether that was out of an abundance of caution or whether there was any kind of a threat, the FAA didn't say, but all arrivals and departures at Buffalo International Airport are now paused as well, Kira.
All right, Aaron, Bob, Mick, Luke, John, we're going to keep going. Please stay with me. We're just going to take a quick break and stay with us for continuing coverage of this breaking news story. Once again, explosion at a checkpoint there at the Rainbow.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We've seen tank after tank pouring into this area.
This is where it all began.
Bullet holes all up the wall.
Within minutes, the air raid sirens going off.
You can hear the sound of an explosion.
We are pinned down here.
Tonight, Israel waging a fierce bombardment of Gaza.
The Israel-Hamas war. For non-stop live coverage, stream ABC News Live.
Reporting from southern Israel.
From the front lines.
In downtown Ramallah.
In Beirut.
Wherever the story is, we'll take you there.
ABC News Live.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine. Some more, just a little bit. Breathe more, just a little bit. Smile a little more in a minute. I've been running through the strange life. Pictures on my phone life. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine.
Good morning, America.
From America's #1 news source comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and it can customize to you and your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience what all the buzz is about. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now. ABC News Live Prime, winner of the Gracie Award for Best News Program in all of television. Stream ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis, weeknights on ABC News Live.
Wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Streaming free on ABC News Live.
Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine. Some more, just a little bit. Breathe more, just a little bit. Smile a little more in a minute. I've been running through the strange life. Pictures on my phone life. Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine.
Good morning, America.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital, destructive Cat 4 storm. You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
Everybody in that home is okay.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. We are here at fashion's biggest night out.
What's happening today? YouTube has unveiled a new set of policies.
What people are talking about. The new ad campaign.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
A real-life Barbie dream house.
A name change for the Wienermobile.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We've seen tank after tank pouring into this area.
This is where it all began.
Bullet holes all up the wall.
Within minutes, the air raid sirens going off.
You can hear the sound of an explosion.
We are pinned down here.
Tonight, Israel waging a fierce bombardment of Gaza.
The Israel-Hamas war. For non-stop live coverage, stream ABC News Live.
Reporting from southern Israel.
From the front lines.
In downtown Ramallah.
In Beirut.
Wherever the story is, we'll take you there.
ABC News Live.
I'm Matt Rivers, and that is the Panama Canal. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We continue to follow breaking news this hour. That